What's up, gamers? So, the latest installment of the Forza Motorsport series just rolled onto the scene, courtesy of Playground Games, and it's generating more mixed opinions than any other recent game, other than COD, obviously. It came flying in on October 10th, marking the 8th lap around the track in the Motorsport series. Now, I'm a bit of a Forza fan myself, especially coming from the Ryzen games, but I must say, I have a soft spot for the classic track races. You know, the kind where you actually learn about cars, tunes and tracks. I've been racing with my trusty Xbox Elite controller on PC, courtesy of Game Pass for this one. Cheers, Phil Spencer. And you can find the nitty-gritty details of my PC specs down below. But to give you a little context, my gaming range goes from hardcore tactical shooter, Escape from Tarkov, oh those PMC headshots, to the simple joys of Minecraft, cue the Minecraft death trap, and just about everything in between. Now, let's hit the track and break it down. Starting with gameplay, my first impressions of the game's career mode weren't exactly good. I've seen other reviewers raving about it, but personally, it didn't quite rev my engine. Why, I hear you ask? Well, the first two cars the game throws at you show the cars. Understeer like a drunk Russian in a Lada, and won't let you fine-tune them until car level 20. That's like 4 to 6 races, including those good old practice rounds. But then after the first 2 races, I went and snagged a Mini Cooper Works for the next career event, and boy, did that change my perspective. That Mini handled like a dream fresh out of the box, probably because it's lighter than those earlier weighty buckets. From there on, I was hooked. I hooned up that Mini until it felt like a high-speed go-kart. I couldn't help but wonder how the other cars would handle once I could get my tuning mitts on them. The rest of my journey? Well, it was a wild ride, challenging races, aggressive AI, cue clip of AI being devious, careful planning, and essential practice rounds. All in all, it made for a truly immersive and fulfilling racing experience. As for difficulty settings, there are loads, and I haven't been able to try all of them yet. I find anything above AI level 6 the first few cars pull away, and I don't feel like I can catch them, probably just because I'm bad. A few assists here and there help on controller too. I use abs and traction control on sport mode, and the braking line. Now on to the eye candy. As for graphics, it's not quite up there with Forza Horizon 5 on my rig. And frankly, that doesn't make much sense to me. Horizon is an open world game, always online, sporting a similar car count and seemingly the same game engine. Yet, I'm getting 90 to 140 FPS with Horizon, while Motorsport limps along at 40 to 60 FPS. So, what's the deal? There are some graphics settings to fiddle with in the menu, but for me, enabling FSR crashes my game every time. And if you squint, you can see some funky graphical glitches on faraway objects. Maybe there's an update around the corner, fingers crossed, or maybe I'm just unlucky with my PC specs. Overall, the graphics are decent, but I was expecting a bit more considering the pedigree of the Forza franchise. Now, let's crank up the volume. Now, sound and music. Oh boy, this one's like the Marmite of motorsport. Some reviewers and players adore the car engine sounds and track audio, but to me it didn't quite hit that immersive mark. It was about as subtle as a mouse wearing tap shoes. But the music, oh the music. Let's just say it's about as memorable as, well, I can't remember. There are no radio stations, unlike Horizon, which even had a drum and bass station. As any young Englishman will tell you, drum and bass pairs perfectly with high-speed driving antics. And the chav in me would have loved a bit of MC Smalley.
Yeah, that's my name. We're gonna go by the flow, gonna play the game, we're gonna...
The lack of focus on audio, in general, might be justified by the developers. Horizon being the more fun and wacky sibling. It seems they put more effort into the car controls and track feel here, rather than any other aspects, and this certainly improves, even still, when you can finally start tuning your ride. Now, let's shift gears to progression. Speaking of progression, or should I say lack thereof, every car you drive needs its own personal training regimen. Each car comes with its own car level, and every few levels, you unlock new parts for your car that you can buy with CP. Really, Forza? That means car points, by the way. So, let me hit you with this. From car level 1 to 10, you can only upgrade the engine stuff. Cooling, intake, exhaust, you know the drill. So, you pour all your car points into these upgrades. But when you reach car level 15-20, that's when the real tuning parts unlock. And guess what? You don't have enough car points left to keep both the engine upgrades and the tuning goodies. It's like trying to decide between a slow and tuned up car or the drag version of that same car. Even if you buy two identical cars, you've got to level them up separately. This tees right into my control quibbles. Starting with a new car at car level low means no tuning options, and those first two races in any event feel like an eternal slog. Stock cars, understeering, an AI that's hungrier than a seagull at a beachside picnic don't exactly scream fun. It takes a while to get into the groove, but when you do, it's a real thrill. The races are tough, the AI is merciless, and careful planning and practice are your keys to victory. It's like a track racing buffet, plenty of options, but spread pretty thin. Now let's take the steering wheel. As I've mentioned, I've been behind the in-game wheel the whole time with my trusty Elite controller. Over my 30-ish hours of playtime, I'd say I've mastered the controls with a few different vehicles. Once you've had a few laps to get cozy with your car, it feels just like the warm embrace I remember from Gran Turismo 4 on the good old PS2. Pushing your car to the limit to beat your previous lap time is a clean and predictable feeling, but it can vary a lot from car to car. I'm using the bare minimum of assist I can, with the braking line being a lifesaver until I memorize the tracks. Steering is set to normal, not simulation, as I've heard that's more suited for wheel users. Alas, I don't have one to test. So, if you've tried this on a wheel, let me know how it felt. Now let's get our engines revving with some content. Now, when it comes to content, it's a bit meh. But there's hope for more in future updates. And we really hope so. The single player career mode feels a tad underwhelming, especially after putting in about 30 hours and completing roughly 12 events. It's a bit of a letdown to turn a stock dinger into a track monster during an event, only to start the next one in a stock Mazda MX-5 and have to go through the whole process again. Sometimes I just want to go fast, and the career mode insists on putting me in a 1994 Golf GTI yawn. Now, let's rev up the multiplayer mode. With events you can join for some high-speed fun. You start with practice rounds, then qualify for your starting grid position based on your best lap time. Once the race kicks off, at least in my experience, it's a blast. The leader usually stays about 7 seconds ahead for the entire race, and I found myself in second place for most of it, just ahead of the pack. But there's a lesson to be learned. Before the race, you pick between soft, medium, or hard tyres. Thinking I was clever, I went with the soft ones. Big mistake. In the last 2 laps, my car wouldn't turn, and the racers behind me zipped past. I ended up finishing 5th. Lesson learned the hard way. I also gave private multiplayer a spin, and my goodness, this would be a hoot with about 5 friends. The host has the power to tweak everything: weather, cars, tracks, which assists are allowed, and so much more. I raced against my buddy Willis, shout out to Willis, in various cars, some with similar rankings and some a bit different. It was an absolute riot. We definitely need more tracks for this kind of fun. Now, let's wrap things up with a pros and cons session. Pros. 1. Focused gameplay. It's all about the thrill of the race, tuning your ride, and beating those lap records. 2. Customization. While it might take some time to get there, the game offers plenty of options for customizing your car. 3. Massive car selection. There's a whopping 500 cars to choose from, although some of them are basically different shades of the same car. 4. Regular updates. The promise of more free content down the road could turn this into the ultimate racing game. 5. Controls. Once you've got the hang of them, there's nothing that feels quite as smooth on a controller. Cons up. 1. Progression. The main drawback here is the unnecessarily complicated car points and upgrade system. They could have made it more straightforward. 2. Graphics. I was expecting more visual polish and optimization, but maybe that will come in a future patch. Modern gaming, am I right? 3. In-game transactions. The presence of car passes and such feels like the same old story from the Forza series. 4. Missed opportunity. It had the potential to be a Gran Turismo killer, but I might have to play the competition first to see. So there you have it. I've had a great time, and I'm looking forward to burning some rubber with faster vehicles. Thanks for riding along with me on this review journey, and I'm all ears for your thoughts. Feel free to drop a comment, like and subscribe. It means a lot. Catch you on the virtual racetrack. Peace.